Welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute since I actually filmed something. Last couple of videos I recorded in April, and I just put them off for a really long time, and I haven't actively recorded something in like a month maybe. But here I am. Now you're probably thinking, Michael Garza, you look different. And you're right, because I did trim my beard shorter. Good eye, I'm pretty impressed. Although now that I think of it, it might have grown back. I probably do need to trim it again. Anyways, that's beside the point. Hopefully I can make this video shorter than the very first one in this series of Who Am I? I hope this is going to be the last one. But when I left off in the last video, I think I had gotten up to me coming home from my mission or something. That sounds about right. I haven't watched them since because I don't like hearing my own voice. So bear with me if I repeat myself. So I got back in December of 2014, and I was home in Texas for about 2 weeks, and then I promptly moved to Utah to go to school. And I attended school for a year. Within a month of getting there, I started using Tinder because one of my mission buds would not shut up about it, so I finally used it so he'd leave me alone. And then I met a girl, we fell in love, we got married a year later, so January of 2015. Yeah, that's math. And so I stopped going to school because I thought, I'll just work, save up money, and then eventually go back. And I promptly did not do that. It's now 2019, and I still haven't gone back to school. So things were going pretty good for a while. But as I've mentioned, I have depression. My anxiety hadn't really shown up yet, at least not in any meaningful capacity, but she had both as well. And I feel like the source of my anxiety is the car crash I was in the Tuesday before Thanksgiving of 2015. I might have mentioned that I've been in a car crash and that I have PTSD, but I do, and it happened. I'll save that story for another video because it's a pretty good story. But the way my PTSD manifests itself is when I'm driving and there's a lot of traffic, or if it's nighttime and there's a ton of headlights. Because right before the crash happened, all I saw was headlights. And same thing happened when I got hit by a motorcycle in Africa. Yet again, another story for another video. So whenever something happens when I'm driving and there's either of those situations or any car related situation, I just kind of go back to that moment. I see the headlights, I feel the restraints of the seatbelt, I feel like the lurch, and it would give me mild to severe panic attacks. And even when I wasn't driving, it was just kind of the sensation of, if I wasn't driving and I could see what was going on the road, I felt like I had no control over what was going to happen. Especially because both other times with the motorcycle and the car crash, I wasn't at fault, and so I just haven't trusted anybody else that's driving ever since then. And it's it's affected me every time I get in a car. But I think that's when my anxiety started kicking into high gear, because throughout our marriage, just stuff involving money, whenever money was tight, would get me really anxious. I didn't even realize it was anxiety for a long time. I thought I was just getting stressed out like normal people do. But she was the one who actually suggested I get I go to the doctor and get tested to see if I have anxiety, because she said it was a lot similar to what she was going through, and it turned out I did. So there you go. And I started taking medication for it, and that helped a lot. But it reached its peak right around election time, I think. Um, there was a lot going on, um, and I remember it was it election time? I don't know. There was one day at work where it was just me by myself doing stuff, and there was so much going on between what she was going through and money troubles and some other stuff that I don't even remember anymore. But I had the first panic attack outside of a car, and that was just kind of the first time I was like, "Whoa, this probably is anxiety." And that timeline makes no sense. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, bottom line, anxiety, PTSD. My depression wasn't as bad, but as a missionary, since all of my efforts were focused on helping people, and as a husband, I unintentionally started having the mentality of it is my job to make sure that everything is fine, that everyone is happy, and if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing my job, I'm a horrible person, and that would just kind of kick my depression into action. And so we kind of got into a cycle of not wanting to worry the other person, so we wouldn't communicate what was going on mentally and emotionally, and it was just causing a lot of problems. And so we decided to separate in early 2018. I don't remember exactly when it was, with the intention of focusing on our own issues so that we could come back together and work better as a team and be better able to take care of each other without having those same problems. But as time went on, it just kind of became clear that we were going down different paths. We were both changing. She was changing more than I was, and we just weren't the same people anymore. And she brought up the idea of divorce first, and I was still trying to keep fighting for it because I had that mentality of I've given up enough times in my life, I'm not going to do it again. But the more I thought about it, the more sense it made that we were just fighting for something that wasn't there anymore. And so we agreed, maybe 4 months ago, for sure, to do it. And it was just kind of like 95% definitely. And over the past year, it's just kind of been like, well, maybe we're ready, but also maybe not. But it just became clear and clear, like, yeah, this is probably what we should do. So there's no bad blood between us or anything. But about trying to decide how much I wanted to divulge. Not divulge, that's not the right word. But to share. In March, about halfway through March, my boss asked if he could have a word, and he said, you're a great employee. I love having you here. You're a great addition to the team, but just the way things are going with the business, I can't afford to keep you on full time. I really don't want to have this conversation, but I don't have a choice. I put it off as long as I can, but I can't afford to pay you full time anymore, at most 2 days a week. And I had been expecting it. I could tell because the supplier was making it harder to buy and Amazon was making it harder to sell. I've mentioned I sell stuff on Amazon, right? Sure. And so, it wasn't a shock. And I'd been there It's been almost 3 years now, more like 2.5 at the time. And I was kind of feeling ready for something different, so it had been on my mind for a while anyways. I said, okay, that makes sense, I get it. And then I got home, and it just, immediately my anxiety shot through the roof. And for about 3 weeks after that, it felt like every waking moment I was one thought away from a panic attack. And I had multiple. And I started applying for jobs like crazy. And he gave me until the end of March to be able to keep working full time. Then after that, the 2-day schedule would take effect. And yeah, I was driving around, going to interviews and all sorts of junk. And I was just driving so much, and my anxiety was, like I said, it was at a maximum. And my PTSD was kind of driving me bonkers, and it just got to the point where I think I even said this out loud. I don't have time to deal with this right now. I need to focus on getting a job. Who cares? You know what? I wasn't going to talk about this because I felt like this wasn't the place to do it. But I've been talking about my beliefs, and it's part of who I am. So buckle up. I'm going to tell you some stuff that's going to sound crazy. In February, 2 months prior to a month. I remember the order of months. In about a month before this happened, I went home to Texas for a week. My brother, who lives here, he found a pretty good deal, so we flew out there together with his family. And in our church, any male member who's been ordained a priesthood holder with the Melchizedek priesthood, I'm not going to take the time to explain that, but it's a thing, believe me. Fathers in that capacity have the right to give their children what's called a father's blessing, right? And I had been kind of feeling like I should ask my dad for one, but I wasn't, it wasn't on my mind too much enough to do it. But towards the end of the visit, he goes, "Hey Michael, do you want a father's blessing? I feel like I should offer." So I said, "All right, sure." So the day before we leave, he gives me a blessing, and it was intense. It was powerful. And I was crying. And it talked a lot about, like, we believe that it is inspired from God. It's not the person who's saying it. It's not their words. And he was saying stuff that applied to things that I wasn't telling my family about. And it advised me to do certain things. And it said that change was coming and that I needed to get ready for it. And some other stuff that's more personal, so I'm not going to show that here. But I was really blown away by it. I was kind of taken aback. And then within a month, this happened. And it was just, I got the feeling like, I told you change is coming, and I meant right now. So I was like, okay, here we go. And so I had a lot of free time. And I was trying to figure out what to do. And I started to realize that part of why my anxiety was so bad was because in the past 3 or 4 years, whenever something like this had happened, I had a partner that I could rely on to help me get through it. But this time, I was completely alone. And I felt more alone than I'd ever felt my entire life. And I had no idea what was coming next. I didn't have a relationship. I wasn't in school anymore. I didn't know if I was going to be able to keep this job at all. I had no idea what was going on. So I was thinking, and I started following the advice that I got in that blessing. And I was sitting on the couch one day, and it just kind of, in my mind, all slide into place that I, for one, I'd been wanting to start a YouTube channel for a long time. I've got time to do that now. I've been told a lot about how I give good advice. I like helping people. I want to be a counselor. I want to go back to school. I want to get a degree, and I want to be a counselor of some sort. I want to start exercising again. I want to make goals. I want to do something with my life. And I started being more open about my situation with people that I was talking about, and I had been doing that for about a year, because in about June or July in 2018, one of my brothers came out as gay, and he'd said that he had decided to be as open and honest as possible, and that it helped him a lot with his depression, which was something I didn't even know he was dealing with. I didn't even have a clue he was gay. I had no idea. Last person I would have thought of. And that, it really stuck with me, because just seeing the difference in him, how much happier he was, I, over that year, had focused on loving myself for myself and being more honest and open with my situation. I wouldn't go out of my way to talk about it, but if it came up and if it was appropriate, I would say, you know what, hey, I've got depression and anxiety. And so over that time, I started to realize that what helped me wasn't people saying, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, that's so horrible, because I don't like feeling like I'm being pitied. I don't like feeling like I'm looking for attention or anything like that. I hate it. I don't like it. But what really helped was people saying, hey, me too. I've been dealing with depression for a long time, or I have anxiety too. Oftentimes there's people I had no idea were dealing with it. And one of my good friends, he even told me, like, after the fact, you're the first person I ever told that to. And so it's helped me connect with people, come closer with people, and in doing that during this time period, somebody offered to pay for me to go to counseling. And I wasn't expecting that at all, and I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, let's go to counseling. So I've been going to counseling for a couple months, and it is awesome. I'm doing so much better. And in the first session, I talked about almost all of everything I've told you about in the last 3 videos, including this one, and then some, basically my life story. And at the end, my therapist, she goes, you've been through a lot, and you're actually handling it very well. You're doing a good job. And in that moment, I didn't even know that I needed validation, but just receiving it, I was just like, thank you so much for saying that. But just, I've gotten tools that a lot of them I'd actually already been doing subconsciously, like saying to myself, I don't have time to deal with this. My PTSD has been so much better. I've got a better handle on it. I still have days where I feel like I don't want to do anything, where I just don't want to get out of bed. But I can do it. I'm working on going back to school, hopefully in January. It took until the middle of May, but I did find another job. I'm leaving out a ton of details, but I followed the advice that I got, and there are a lot of things that happened that I felt like were supposed to happen. I got some personal confirmations that starting a YouTube channel was a good idea. Because I didn't have a job for 2.5 months, or well, a full-time job, I was able to start this channel. I was able to start exercising and stretching. I think I've mentioned my hip before, but now I've hardly felt any pain in well over a month. And that is amazing to me. I go on runs regularly now, no pain after the fact. I'm feeling better about myself. The job that I got is at a counseling establishment. I'm an administrative assistant there. So I'm getting a behind the scenes look at what I want my future to be. I've been making more friends and, just telling them about my life and helping them out with theirs and their problems. And I'm in a good place right now. I don't know if I ever said this, but we actually signed the divorce papers about a month ago, but because Utah's dumb, it takes like 3 to 4 months for it to actually be final. So legally I'm still married, which is kind of frustrating because I'm ready to move on. But it is what it is. It's been hard. Through counseling, I've realized that I'm still grieving the relationship itself. I had felt like I'd accepted it beforehand, but like I said, just the realization that I haven't done this on my own for a long time brought back those feelings, and I miss being in a relationship. I absolutely still feel like divorce is the right way to go right now, but I'm still growing, I've come a long way in my life. I've got so many regrets. I've done so many things I wish I could take back. So many things I've done and said. I've not always been the best example of who I want to be or what I believe in. I've done things that my parents would not be proud of, and they're not going to find out about. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But know that it wasn't your fault. I'm very grateful for my parents. I couldn't ask for anyone better to have raised me, because every good choice I've ever made is directly because of their influence. But like I said, I'm not trying to preach anything about my belief system or what I think, and I have a deep appreciation for everyone that I've ever met and everything that they think and believe. And my phone ran out of memory, so I had to stop there for a second. Hopefully I can remember what I was saying. But yeah, there's a lot I wish I could change, but I can't. And I'm trying to focus on being the best me I can be now. And the purpose of these past videos was to give myself the chance to be open with everybody about my life. I'm nowhere near to being an open book, but I am an open page on Cliff Notes. It's the best I've got. And I've talked about this with my therapist, but boundaries are important, so I'm not going to share too much, but this is more than I've told most people. Yeah, if you have the chance to go to therapy, please go. If you're dealing with anxiety and depression or PTSD or any other mental health disorder, talk to somebody about it. I have a hard time thinking of myself as a good person, but I am trying to be my best self every day. And that's a big part of why I wanted to start this channel. Like I said in my very first video, I'm trying to prove to myself that I can overcome anything. And I've already proved to myself time and time again that I don't have to believe what my brain is telling me, that I am capable of a lot of things. And I've had my fair share of nights, where it's 3 in the morning, I'm in my car in the middle of nowhere, just screaming at the top of my lungs and punching the steering wheel because nothing feels like it's working out. Nothing is ever going to be fine, and I'm never going to be good enough, and this, that, and the other. But I've also had days where I feel like I can conquer the world. And I've still got a long ways to go. But to answer the question, who am I? I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am someone who's made a lot of mistakes, who's almost made other mistakes, and someone who's trying to do better. I am someone who believes in others more than he believes in himself, but I'm trying to believe in me. I believe that anything I can do, you can do better, and I'm saying that to myself as much as I'm saying to anybody. I am Michael Garza, and I am a work in progress.